Hello, this is Gretchen and this is the Vintage Seagull. To start off, I invite you to like and subscribe to this channel to see more of my content, and also it helps build my channel. The topic of today's video is kind of dealing with negative comments when you dress vintage. And as a reenactor who has had to go to restaurants after those events, I've had a lot of experience with that. Also in high school, I was goth. I'll kind of get into some of these things. And I've watched a number of videos on dealing with people and kind of what comebacks or things to say. So I have some examples of things you can say to these people. Also with the elegance thing, if you just, want to be more prim and proper and don't want to go there with people, there are some non-verbal things you can do. And then I want to talk about my outfit today. It's 75 finally. Tomorrow I'll get my hair cut, so I just have it bunned back with pink velvet and a hairpin, a Hawaiian shirt and shorts, and I have some nice sandals. So this is sort of like very 50s Florida kind of theme. It's hard to see, but I got green eyeshadow to match the background and pink to match the flamingos. Because I have darker lips, I have to get, filter in some different lipsticks and colors and things like that to get the right color, because I get very washed out. But dealing with negative comments or even curiosity of dressing vintage is the topic of today's video. So first and foremost, you want to look at the context and who you're dealing with when you're responding, because that does vary. So if you think about it, let's say you're at a restaurant or you're at a gas station or you're at a park. Those are kind of low stress, responses to people, especially if they're really rude, unless you think it could impact your life in the community or get back to your employer, things like that. But I think just people who are strangers, who maybe are working or just in the community or at an event, or even if you're traveling, you don't know them at all, that's kind of a low risk situation. If it's an acquaintance, a friend, a family member, you can set more boundaries with them. But it's a little more of a medium level. I would say the employer is probably the hardest part, but if they're being disrespectful, that's a whole other thing. A lot of times people are curious. Sometimes they kind of don't know what to say. They're socially awkward. Sometimes people are rude. Sometimes people have a personality disorder and they're really rude. It really varies. So you have to think about the audience and the context, how much you want to engage, how many times you want to set the boundary. If it's someone you know and it's a repeated thing, being more firm, like starting light and being more firm is something you can do. But again, knowing your audience first and foremost and how that would impact you is really what you want to look at. I would say most people are those strangers who you don't know, and then people who you know really well might make comments. Like I have family members who sometimes they mock you for it. They know this is what you do, and they're kind of jerky about it. So there's that too, but it's mostly strangers and acquaintances from what I know. And just think about that, the patterns, who said stuff to you, or even if this is new and going into it. So that is probably the first kind of baseline you want to think of. So this is more on a basic like delivery. So one of the elegance kind of rules, and this is, I think, a good way to go about a lot of this stuff, is always have bright eyes, a smile, friendly body language and demeanor no matter what you're delivering. So if you're telling no, and things like that. Doing that and also having a positive, friendly tone, it might confuse them. But let's say you're at like a gala or dinner party and someone says something to you, it would look better from a distance to people. Like, don't look rude or combative. So any interaction you have, if you have that, that really helps a lot. So this one's pretty easy when you dress for a special event. If you just say, hey, I'm dressed this way because I just had a reenactment, or you're at a reenactment. I was in a play. Sometimes people just say that so to not deal with awkwardness. They just say, hey, I'm in a musical or I'm in a play, and that kind of shuts people down. But if you really want to be honest, yeah, you could say, oh, I went to a themed party. I went to like a 1920s party. I went to a special event, things like that. And most people are more curious in that, and they will ask more about it. Maybe they've always wanted to get into these things and didn't really know how or the resources, and you could be helpful to them and answer some questions. Sometimes people can be a bit intrusive and too much, so a boundary you could do is like give them a business card or someone to reach out to if they really want to learn more, because it can get very involved. So it's a springboard to start them, and they could ask you a couple of questions and things like that. And some people might, be more rude and try to engage. And you can basically say you're not going there. I do have some statements for people, like let's say you're dressed this way just because you feel like it. It could be in an event, or it could also be just because you want to, and how to explain that to people. So here are some statements. I'll be looking down because I have it on a piece of paper. I drafted these from my life experiences and different videos. And also when I do more of the elegance videos, there are some statements and things that you can say in work situations and different personal situations, depending, and I'll share that later as I develop the channel. But people say, a lot of times, why you dress that way? Some people can just say because I feel like it. Some people can say because I'm a professional and I'm mature. Some people just say because it's like this day of the week, I'm doing this. So that's like kind of a basic. And if people ask why you're dressed that way and take it as a slight, like let's say they're wearing pajamas or athleisure, and they kind of take it at wrong, like, wow, you're dressed very formal and I'm not. You must be a pretentious snob and think something's wrong with me. You could say, my style is a reflection of me. It's not a reflection of you. That way it's like, this is how I choose to express myself, and what you want to do is cool too, but this is what I like. This is what I feel best in. When someone tries to insult you, if you can tell it's that, one thing, again, use the good tone in the body language. One example is just to say thank you, which could sound snobby, but you're being polite, and they were being rude to you, depending on if this is the scenario. And then again, this next one goes with, this is how I express myself, and it's not about you. You could say, how I dress is my choice and it has nothing to do with you. And I have a note here, like sometimes people will say, hey, you think you're better than us? It's that kind of scenario. And you're just saying, hey, no, it's not like that at all. This is what I like to do. Another one that's similar to like the first one is, my style is a reflection of me, not a rejection of you. That's another one. And if they're like really rude, you could just say, I don't appreciate that comment. And you could also say, again, if they think you're better, you could say, just because I am dressed this way does not mean that I am better than anyone. So it's really making it clear that this is just expression and not about other things. Sometimes we have some stereotypes about the way people dress. So if people dress very corporate, or let's say they're at polo with the big hats, people have these beliefs about certain clothing. So that's another thing you have to deal with when you're dressed a certain way. You could say thank you for noticing, which again could be sound snobby, but again, if you're responding to rudeness, you shouldn't have to take that or tolerate it, because they're just, you know, making fun of you. So those are the kind of things. They're very simple. Another thing you can do if you really don't want to deal with it is they could say they say something rude, and you just stare them straight in the eye, don't blink, and just sort of give a look that you're on to them and that it was way out of line, and walk away. They just give them a look and walk away. That is pretty clear. And again, that at a big function is a way you could do that. When it comes to, say, online, you could use these comments, or you could just ignore the comment or choose not to engage. I think it's best just not to engage if you can help it, but if it's someone you know, it's repeated, or it's really rude, you might want to use these. But these are the things that are simple but work, and you're just making it clear that this is me, this is how I'm going to express myself. Don't try to change me, and don't like make fun of me, basically. So it's that kind of thing. So dressing vintage is not like the worst case scenario. I know when I dressed goth in 10th grade, I got a lot of ugly, rude comments, and I dressed more Victorian goth, but they had an issue with it. So also, if you're dressing earlier time periods, that could be an issue. Vintage is kind of medium-ish, depending on like what time period you're doing. For work, you can kind of dress it down and be more simple. So like a lot of people just wear a nice button-down shirt, a skirt and pants, and some footwear, a little bit of makeup, and some easy hairstyles. That's a way to downplay it. If there are situations where you just really don't want to deal with it, you can make it very subtle. Especially in today's world, there are like some pop star icons that are still doing vintage, so it's moderately cool. So that's one thing. So you can downplay it as well, but you know that like certain kinds of dressing up can get you attention. Hopefully people haven't had to really deal with this much, but we do deal with it, and it's awkward because you want to feel comfortable in your own skin and how you express yourself, but you don't want to get like weird attention. But then if you dress, say, modern, you don't feel right. You're not getting bad comments. I dealt with this most of my life, where I couldn't have both. I want to dress how I want to dress, but not get negativity. And it seemed like you have to have one or the other. The vintage is the way that I've been able to kind of balance the two and feel comfortable. So the more you do it, the better you get used to it. Again, if you do reenactments at events, you get a lot of questions, a lot of people talk to you, or after you're done, you're still dressed up. That's a way to really get used to it. I don't want to say get thicker skin, but that kind of thing. Or just going out and practicing. Some things you could do is, like, say it's work or other situations, you could just slowly integrate it over time, and people get used to it, unless again they're strangers. So you could start with a little bit of makeup, a little bit of hair, a little bit of clothes, just gradually integrate it into your life, and then but keep it on the simple side, and then maybe it'll be okay. Again, hopefully people get neutral, positive responses and not too much negativity, but I hope this would help if you do get comments and questions.